Hi folks, welcome to episode 3 of the Amazing Race 25 Music Podcast. I'm Lee Sanders, composer on The Amazing Race, and in this episode, teams go from Oxford, England to the Shetland Islands. But I'd rather not start there just yet. Today I'd like to start in Egypt. Yeah, Egypt. In about the year 41 BCE, we see Antony and Cleopatra in Shakespeare's play of the same name. Act 2, Scene 5, Cleopatra is pining away for Antony. He's not there. She's trying to distract herself, and so she invites her friend to a game of billiards. It is interesting to note that billiards, in the form we know it, would not be invented for about another 1,500 years. So what does any of this have to do with the Shetland Islands? Well, it's something I think about a lot when I write for Race. The need to balance musicological accuracy with emotional truth. What does Viking music sound like? Well, it turns out we don't know a whole lot about it. We can imagine from those few artifacts and written depictions that they used fiddles, lyres, lutes, perhaps a type of hand cymbal. This is what the research shows us. But none of that seems right. You can take a look at that image, and somehow a lute or a chamber ensemble just doesn't seem to fit, does it? What's being depicted is essentially a Viking ritual. It almost looks like a funeral pyre, and the music has to reflect that. So what did I do? I thought about the emotion that I wanted the audience to feel as they were looking at this scene, as they watch this reenactment of something that has taken place in this part of the world for centuries. It needed to feel muscular, grand, epic, and above all, old. So we used large drums of a sort that we don't know the Vikings ever used or possessed. We used a large male chorus. We used a large orchestra of a sort that almost certainly didn't exist in this part of the world and still is not idiomatic to it. Is this cheating? Maybe. But hopefully it enhances the viewing experience and speaks to an emotional truth that we're trying to get across to you, the viewers. I've talked about this a little bit in the chat room at realityfanforum.com. The balancing of the emotional truth of the scene and the musical aspects that tie the scene to its location is one of the fundamental tensions that take place on the show. Another thing you may notice about the music for this episode is that once teams arrive on the Shetland Islands, the stereotypical bagpipe music that is associated with Scotland kind of goes away. And that's deliberate, that's on purpose. We did it because of exactly what we've been talking about. That's it for this week's episode, except for a couple of pieces of housekeeping. Number 1, thank you to all of you who wrote in your responses to last week's miniature contest. Unfortunately, there were no right answers, so I'm going to leave it open. If you think you can figure out the answer, please write in. And also, next week, episode 4, will be up a couple of days late. I have some business that'll take me out of town, and it'll take me that long to get everything ready for you. So I will see you next Wednesday, episode 4, and we will be in Copenhagen. Until then, have a great week.